Does the biggest comeback in franchise history mean the Nashville Predators can turn this season around?
You're Locked On Predators, your daily podcast on the Nashville Predators, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to the Locked On Predators podcast. Thanks so much for making us your first listen of the day. We are a part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Want to kick off this game day episode shouting out our Locked On Predators insiders and our everydayers who tune in each and every weekday to talk Nashville Predators hockey with us. We appreciate your support. We love going through this up and down season with you all. I'm Ann Kimmel. I'm a co-host and writer with Penalty Box Radio. And my friends, I have a partner in crime.
You do. I'm Emma Lingen, and I'm the Predators site editor and reporter for the Hockey News.
On today's show, Emma, you and I are finally reunited after we did a crossover yesterday, and we're going to talk about that emotional franchise record comeback win over the San Jose Sharks. And, just talk about maybe this is the thing that's got Nashville turning a corner. We don't know. We're going to tell you what we think, though. We're also going to look ahead to tonight's rematch against the San Jose Sharks and wrestle with the existential question, is this actually the trap game? Before we dive into that, do want to let you know today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. All right, Emma, lots to talk about in the hockey world, but just very quickly before we pivot to that, Emma and I just want to say that our hearts are with the Antioch community and Antioch High School. It's very difficult on days like this to focus on hockey, but that is what we're here to do. That is what we are going to do. But we just want to let everyone in that community and in our community know that our thoughts and prayers are with everybody involved in that situation. Tough to pivot, but we're going to try to do it, Emma. We're going to try to pivot here. You and I are finally reunited after a crossover episode. So much fun with JD Young. Y'all, if you missed yesterday's crossover post-game recap with JD Young, you need to go back and watch it. We had a great time. But this is our first chance to talk about that game. Now, I actually did not cover that game. You were there live and in person, Emma. Walk me through that experience of watching that game live and in person.
It was a roller coaster, let me tell you. It was a lot of weird, because I said early on, I was like, what did I say the other day? Trap games are real. Mm-hmm. And this is one of them. And I was like, oh man, this is we know I love being right. So I was kind of happy I was right. But then I was like, this is really unfortunate. And I was just kind of preemptively thinking about what all the fans are going to be saying, comments and things like that. And I was like, well, hey, at least Yaroslav Askarov wasn't in net, because that would have made it even worse. But it was just oh, okay. When they scored two quick ones in the second period, was it second? Yeah, second period, and it got up to 5-3, and it was a little bit all right, that's a little more palatable of a loss than 5-1. It doesn't, it doesn't erase what happened in the first period, but it was all right, well, 5-3. I mean, that's kind of what they deserve, because they did not start this game on time. They showed up, forgot there was a game to play until the second period. I think they thought it started at 8 instead of 7. But then it was oh my gosh, they're actually going to do this. They're going to come back. And even when they did come back and got it up to, I think when they tied it, and then even when I think it was Roman Josi scored the go-ahead goal to make it 6-5, there was still 11 minutes left in the game. And I was oh, that's so much time. I don't like this at all. There's a lot of time, just, that anything could happen. Hello, Minka. Yeah, Minka's very excited. She brought everybody her Snoopy toy.
Oh,
Um,
yay.
but yeah, it was a lot of up and down, a lot of emotions, and then it was like, oh wow, uh, they did the thing. And then even in the locker room afterwards, which ended up being a much more pleasant experience than I was initially expecting after
Oh,
the third
gosh.
period, or excuse me, the first period. We talked to a few different guys. We talked to Roman Yossi, Nick Blankenberg, Jonathan Marchessault, and Tommy Novak. And a really common theme, I spent the most time with Roman and Marchessault and Blankenberg as well. Common theme: we can't do that again.
Mm-mm.
That was a horrid start. That is not acceptable, and we left little juice out to dry.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of talk about, oh, Saros got pulled again. It's the fourth time he's been pulled this year. Okay, the defense has not been good in front of him. And this
No.
was always kind of a question mark with this team, because even when they started off, the season started off slow for this team. It was kind of looking at the roster, and we kept saying this. We're like, okay, the goals will come. The offense will come. Like this team is too talented offensively to not score goals. So that'll come. But the defense has still been a little bit of a question mark, because the offense has indeed started to show up. Um,
Finally.
finally, a little too late, but that's all right. I think that, we're seeing that, because that was the most just confounding part of this whole thing. Now it's like, okay, we need to talk about the defense, because that would not good.
Yes. It was not good. And I agree with you. You see the comments about UC Saros after that game. And yeah, there's probably one of those 4 goals that he's like, "Man, wish I would have had that back." But boy, the defense did him no favors in that first period of that game. I will say, I'd pretty much given up hope, and then when Jonathan Marchessault scored less than half a minute into the third period, I was like, okay. But still, this is not a team that has done enough to make you think, oh, they've got it. Not just skill set wise, but like mental fortitude wise. We have not necessarily seen this be a Nashville Predators team where we go, oh, they have the mental fortitude to come back against this team. The other thing I will say is love that they got the win. So fun. Greatest comeback in franchise history. You are never going to get that if you go down 5-1 to Winnipeg or Dallas or Washington. You are never going to be able to pull that off. So there is nowhere to hang your hat if you're the Nashville Predators when you look at that first period. Do you feel like, and this is something you and I have wrestled with on multiple occasions, very recently even, 4-game win streak, greatest comeback in franchise history. We're seeing a lot of positive things offensively. We are going to talk about the defense coming up. Um, have your feelings changed about whether Nashville's turning a corner? Do you feel any more ready to commit to, yeah, okay, maybe, or are you still like, yeah, yeah, I don't know.
I think it depends on your definition of turning a corner. Like you
Mhm.
said, mental fortitude, like that, everything looks better than it did. And I agree with you, though. The only reason that they were able to complete the comeback from down 5-1 is because they were playing San Jose. And I am sorry
100%.
to any Sharks fans who are listening. I actually want to see San Jose succeed. They are
Love that
generally
team.
a
Love
fun team.
that team. Yes. Love that
Yes,
team.
but yeah, if they had gone down that far, like to Vegas, or
Oh,
like you said, Winnipeg, Dallas, anyone,
anyone.
it would not work out that way. So that's not a recipe for success. However, like you said, you're seeing more of the mental fortitude, more of the will to win. Another thing to point out: 7 different goal scorers. I think that is
Crazy.
really, really good. To kind of see that all 4 lines pulling that way, which you weren't seeing. I mean, Hell, before you weren't seeing any of the lines pulling. But I think now you're starting to see that. But I think in terms of turning a corner, I would say yes, because this team is not the problems that they were having at the beginning of the year are not, they're not having those problems now. However, I think it's still a little too late.
Mhm.
Too late for this year. Too late for
Yeah.
this year. Mathematically, technically, they have not been eliminated yet. Um, but they're gonna have to, they dug themselves into such a hole that they are no longer in control of their own destiny. I mean, not only would they have to win like 2 out of every 3 games for the rest of the season, but like a lot of other teams would have to do a lot of losing.
Yes.
So that's, you can't control that. So in terms of playoffs, I don't know that this is like, okay, we're coming back. I think it's almost like I've seen a lot of fans getting upset about, oh, great. Well, now they're good. So we're not going to get a good draft pick. And it's like, okay, even if they're like a 500 team the rest of the year, they're still probably going to be picking in the top 10
Yeah.
of the draft, which
Yeah.
is pretty good. If that's what what your ultimate goal is. So I say just like, at least right now, at least it's fun to watch, like it was
Oh,
not
so
fun.
much less painful.
It was not fun in the first half of the year. Now at least it's fun. So just, hop on the roller coaster, enjoy the ride. And I say this as someone who does not enjoy roller coasters in the slightest.
Yeah, just throw up your hands and just yell "we" because that's where we're at. Coming up, we're actually going to talk about some of those 7 different goal scorers, and then Emma and I are going to have a frank discussion about the defense. Today's episode is brought to you by our friends at FanDuel. From the first whistle to the final drive, FanDuel makes the NFL playoffs even more exciting. Right now, new customers can bet $5 and get $300 in bonus bets if you win your first bet. That's $300 to keep the action going. The FanDuel app is easy to navigate, and the variety of bets keeps every game exciting. Plus, when you win, you get paid instantly. No waiting around for your winnings. Whether you're betting on your favorite team or just looking to add some extra excitement to the playoffs, FanDuel has you covered. Just visit fanduel.com to join today and get started with $300 in bonus bets. That's fanduel.com. Make this playoff season unforgettable with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. All right, Emma, talking about this comeback the Nashville Predators had Tuesday night against the San Jose Sharks. And one of the things that you mentioned is the fact that there were 7 different goal scorers. And I think that that is one of those things that is encouraging. And I am like you when you're talking about like, can this team turn a corner? I think the question is it too soon to tell? And is it too late to care? And that's kind of the space where the Nashville Predators are. So you almost have to look at something different to figure out what to take away from this Predators team because the results are deceptive and unpredictable for this team. But talking about, the San Jose game, different goal scorers up and down the lineup. Of course, you had your Yossi, you got Philip Forsberg extending his goal streak, and you got Jonathan Marchessault. But I love that you get goals from Fedor Svechkov. And then also, can we please talk about Sir Blankenberg, who gets that game-winning goal? 2 of his 3 goals for the Predators have been game-winning goals. And talked with him after the game. I love, like, as if we didn't love Sir Blankenberg enough, he quotes Ted Lasso again and talks about Ted Lasso says believe, and I thought that was great. He also quotes his dad. His dad says, do your best and forget the rest. And I'm like, let's go, Mr. Dad, Sir Blankenberg. But I love to see players like this stepping into the moment, like 26-year-old guy, undrafted. Let's be honest. He's probably what we would consider an undersized defenseman, but I think he's been so good for the Nashville Predators. I really have been so impressed with what Blankenberg has been able to bring.
Yeah, he definitely, he does not bring size, and that's okay. He's a right shot defenseman, which have been hard to come by for the Predators this year. And so I think that, but yeah, obviously he's got that background as a forward.
So
For
interesting.
such a great story. I'm going to be writing a longer form story on him for the Hockey News during the Four Nations break after I move. I got a few things going on here. So it's
Got some
you
stuff going on.
got some things going on, but fret not. The Sir Blankenberg story is coming, but just a really interesting background. He was a forward really all the way through high school until, one game in his like junior career, his early junior career. It was like they had some injuries. It was literally the middle of the game. There were injuries and things going on, and they're like, coach came in and said, okay, we need someone to play defense. Who wants to do it? And he's like, I'll do it. And the rest is history. Now he's an NHL defenseman. Few things happened in between now and then, but I mean, I can't ruin the whole story for you. But
Right.
yeah, I think that he's a really good skater. He moves really well. He's quick with the puck. He's got some really silky mitts. My goodness,
my
he can handle the
gosh.
puck. And I think that comes from, his experience as a forward, I'm sure. But I did ask him about that. I was like, do you think that helps? And he goes, honestly, I don't think it really matters, forward, defense, whatever. I think that just comes from being a hockey player. Like, it's basic skills you learn when you learn to play hockey. I was like, oh, fair enough.
Okay.
So he plays a pretty, fundamentally sound game. Again, he's not really thrown his body around a lot. Doesn't have much to throw around. But
He's fun size.
he is fun size, but he does a lot of things very well. So he's been a big part of this team for sure.
Yeah, it's been great to watch him come up and sort of make his mark in the NHL. But let's talk about some other things with the defense that might not be as exciting to talk about maybe as Nick Blankenberg. I just don't even know how to say it without sounding unkind, but can we talk about Justin Barron?
Dear
Who
heavens,
did
yes.
score a goal. And this is part of the thing with Justin Barron, because there are some egregious mistakes, but then he scores a goal and you're kind of like, oh, it's like the boyfriend who disses you, but then he's like, oh, hey, here's some flowers.
Yeah, that's the
What are we doing?
toxic boyfriend. That's the toxic boyfriend that you need to stay away from.
Yes. Yes.
I think we've all dated that person once in our life.
We have. Yes.
But I think that, yeah, Justin Barron. Here's what I have to say about it.
Mhm.
You need to look at these things as two separate things. Everybody wants to take the low hanging fruit and say, well, that was a horrible trade. What was Barry Trotz thinking? And I know that we've gone through this before, but I need to just lay it all out there again and say, yes, in the immediate term, 1-for-1, Justin Barron for Alex Carrier, Montreal wins that trade 10 out of 10 times on day one of the trade. Like,
Right.
he is not, a better defenseman. And at first I was kind of like, well, okay, like the numbers aren't great, but you know what? He's young, he's big. Let's see. Ugh. It has not been good. Justin Barron looks like a lost puppy out there all the time on defense, and he keeps getting caught too low in the zone. He's caught out of position all the time. He's a rover and he's been playing on a pair with Roman Josi, who's also a rover. But here's the difference, friends. Roman Josi is actually good at it, and Justin Barron not so much. And so at least 2 of the goals in the first period given up to San Jose on Tuesday were 100% Justin Barron's fault. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
And yes, technically it's still the goalie's job to stop the goal, like stop the puck, whatever. So I'm not trying to absolve UC Saros of any and all blame here.
Mm-hmm.
But again, when the defense in front of him plays that poorly, it's a little bit like, come on. But
yes, that was rough.
and it's become a pattern. And again, I am hesitant to make sweeping judgments on players after a very small sample size of seeing them, but I kind of feel like I've seen enough of Justin Barron. I'm like, okay, this ain't it. I don't even know what. And it's not even like, oh, he doesn't fit the system necessarily. It's just like, have you ever played defense before?
Yeah, it's just there's not a connection. And I agree with what you're saying. What it makes it so dangerous is him with Yossi, because it's like there is not an understanding of how that pairing should work.
Well, and
It's
here's the
tough.
thing. It's like, I understand if it's a younger player, newer to the system, he's been struggling a bit. I understand wanting to pair him with a veteran captain, a guy who can be sort of a safety net for him. But this team already relies on Roman Yossi to do so much. And
Yeah.
I feel like, again, there's no easy answer with this defense, unfortunately, because obviously, right now, Lausanne's injured. Adam Wilsby is back. Spencer Stastny, I'm sorry, but I know that I know that Barron scored a goal, and that's all good, but he also gave up 2 of them. So I'm like, that to me, that does not cancel out in my mind. But I'm like, I'm sorry. For 2 games, you've had Spencer Stastny sitting in the locker room while Justin Barron is out there making a fool of himself.
Yeah.
You got to get Stastny back in there.
And you asked Andrew Brunette this post game, because I think this is a question that is on everybody's mind. Why is Spencer Stastny not back in the lineup? This is what Andrew Brunette had to say about that.
Yeah, I mean, I think with Spencer, I think he came in, played really well against Vancouver, and then after that, everybody had a tough game in Calgary, and he just really didn't grab his game that he had at the first game, and I thought it was slipping a little bit. Wills was really good for us early. He was slipping, and that's the journey of a young player trying to make it in this league and play in this league. And Stas hasn't played a lot of hockey, so I think just to get him out and watch again, get him back reset him a little bit. He's still an important piece for us. Especially his mobility and his skating, and Wills was really good. I think he's +3 tonight, and he's done his job when he's been in there. So there'll be some movements, over the course of time, and they'll both get their opportunities, and you hope they grab it and become regulars in the NHL.
I get it. Spencer Stastny has not played as much hockey, and I understand that, but I think his upside defensively is significantly better than maybe what we are seeing on the ice. And this is somebody, Andrew Brunette said, we're going to be making some rotations. Really want to see Spencer Stastny get back in that lineup. I love, and I know most people would not ever use the word love and Luke Schenn in the same sentence, but I love Stastny and Schenn together. It reminds me of Lightning McQueen and Doc from the movie Lightning McQueen. No, it's not. What's it called? It's Cars. I'm like, it's not called Lightning McQueen. It's called Cars. You've got like Speed. I am Speed. And then you've got like I've been here before. I know how this works, of Luke Schenn. And I just think, man, that pairing is so good. It's just tricky because, again, like slim pickings on the right shot defenseman. And the bottom line is, whether it happens this season or next season, Nashville has to figure out what they're going to do defensively, because kind of limping through this is not going to move this team forward.
Yeah. And I think the one, going back to what I said before about the whole trade with Carrier and Barron, the good thing about all of this, and the reason that I say it's too early to say that this trade was a failure for the Predators in the immediate term, yes, but in the long term, we don't know, because the main thing that the Predators get out of the trade is flexibility and cap space.
100%.
So we don't know what the final impact is yet of this trade. Now, the good thing is with this trade, Justin Barron comes in, he costs less money, and it has less term, than Carrier did. He was not he doesn't need to fit into this team's long-term plan if he doesn't work out. It's not like we have this guy, well, crap, he's signed to this big contract and he's terrible. Now what do we do? Like he's under contract through next year. He's then becomes an RFA. Again, there's still time, and I would love for him to prove me wrong, but it's been painful to watch. And I can respect and appreciate what Andrew Brunette's saying. He makes a good point that Stastny has not played a lot of hockey this year, and you don't want to have him bite off more than he can chew too early, because that's going to be worse for him in the long run. But I just feel like when he's out there, even when Stastny's not at his best, I don't think of him as a liability in the way that I think Barron is. Like, have there been times like when Brunette mentioned the Calgary game, he's like, yeah, he didn't look good in Calgary. And I'm like, okay, but to be fair, the whole damn team didn't look good in
100%.
Calgary. So
100%.
it's like, but I can understand where he's coming from with that. But I think that, like, yeah, there's definitely been times where I've looked at Stastny and been like, man, that was maybe not your best move, but I've never felt like he was as much of a liability. But again, I think, you also have the fact that, like we talked about, you need the right shot defenseman. Josi can play either side. I understand you want him playing on his dominant side, but I'm sorry, I will take Roman Josi on his quote unquote bad side any day over, Justin Barron out there making a fool of himself, because I think, I kind of thought that when Willsby came back from IR, that was when it was like, all right, finally, let's bench Barron. But I don't see that happening until Jeremy Lauzon is healthy again, because that's who was playing on the top pairing with Josi before he got hurt.
Yeah. And we're still waiting for that to happen. We're waiting for Jeremy Lauzon to return to the lineup. We'll have to wait and see if tonight Spencer Stastny gets that opportunity to get back in the lineup with San Jose. Coming up, we are going to talk about what San Jose's lineup could look like that could make this game tonight the actual trap game. Today's episode is brought to you by our great friends at Game Time. If this Predators run has you itching to see a game live, you've got to check out the great deals available at Game Time. Game Time has made it even easier to get tickets for your favorite events with a new feature. It's called Game Time Picks. This feature filters out the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats, so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. With Game Time Picks, you can find amazing deals on sports, theater, concerts, and comedy. You get to see the view from your seat before buying, and the app's all-in pricing shows you the total cost up front with no surprise fees at checkout. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it? Game time. All right, Emma, we're going to wait and see what kind of lineup Andrew Brunette puts together tonight as the Predators have an immediate rematch against the San Jose Sharks. Friends, it's nap day. Puck drop, 9:30 p.m. Central Time. So make your plans accordingly. But the lineup question, the interesting lineup piece, is actually more about San Jose, because we are likely to see Yaroslav Askarov in net. And friends, if ever Yaroslav Askarov wanted to play an FU game, it's going to be tonight against the Nashville Predators. So I think you have that factor. You're going to want the Sharks to get that for Askarov. The Sharks are also going to want to make up for kind of the epic collapse on Tuesday night's game. Emma, okay, so we don't believe in trap games if we're hockey players, but if we watch hockey and analyze hockey, we feel like they might be a real thing. Is it me, or is this the actual trap game for the Nashville Predators?
Well, yeah, because this is a team that, like you said, even more so, this is the trap game because you've just seen this team. So that immediately gives you a certain level of comfortability with it that you're like, ah, okay. Like you're maybe not, as dialed in because you just saw these guys. It's nothing new. You also are coming off a massive franchise record comeback win over these guys. So it's like, been there, done that. Again, these guys are not actually thinking about it in this way,
Right.
but I
It's a
think, just human nature.
subconscious thing. Yeah.
It's human nature. So I think that, yes, you just saw them, you just beat them. And like, again, I just think, this team's now won 4 in a row for the first time all year. Nashville has, and that, they've got all the momentum going into this. That makes it the trap game because for a few reasons, all the reasons I just mentioned. But then you have the fact that you mentioned it, and this San Jose team is going to be raring to go because they just got their butts kicked by Nashville. But not just by Nashville, because they lost 2 games in a row, Boston and Nashville,
Yes.
in the same fashion. They were up and they gave up a lead and they lost. And now the Nashville one was by a larger margin, but still, it's 2 back-to-back games that they lost in the same way. So they're going to be pissed off coming into this game. And you have Yaroslav Askarov in net, like you said. And add in the fact that this is a Nashville team that has not performed well on the road. Yes, they've won 4 games in a row, but they've all been at home.
Right.
So I am still nervous. I like I said at the beginning of the show, I was nervous going into the game on Tuesday. That one was making me nervous. And it shouldn't, by all accounts, by all measures, it shouldn't have made me nervous, but it did. And then we had that first period, and I was kind of like, not to say I told you so, but I told you so. And now we're going to be in their house, facing a pissed off team. Nashville will have just traveled across the country. I still don't feel great about it.
Yeah. This is a tough one. I always have to take Tums. I always had to take Tums when I watch Yaroslav Askarov in net anyway, because he just causes me anxiety. But I think this is going to be like a 4 or 5 Tums night, because now you are facing him. And I agree with you. This has all the makings of a disaster for Nashville, and not being able to get wins on the road is something the Predators have to push through. And I think if they can get a win tonight on the road and make it a 60-minute game, could we play the first period? I'm just throwing it out there and seeing what sticks. I think that will do a lot for Nashville. They go San Jose tonight, Saturday night in Anaheim. Even just 2 games on the road, if you get 2 wins on the road, I think just mentally, we're not even going to talk about the numbers. Mentally, this team has to get these wins on the road. My other question for you is, will we see Saros tonight in net?
I think so.
Yeah.
I just knowing how he works with Ben Vanderklok and with Bruno, like Andrew Burnett is really not the one who makes the final call on who starts in goal. It's really Ben Vanderklok. And I just, knowing how they operate, I can't see them going with, after Saros has had, an off night, a bad start, they're going to want to get him back on the horse as quickly as possible. Because otherwise he sits and he stews and he thinks about, it becomes worse. And so also add in the fact that Onanen did play the majority of the game against San Jose. So I think that you are probably going to see, you're going to see Saros in net against San Jose.
It's going to be
the second game.
It's going to be an interesting storyline, because it all goes back to the Predators chose Saros over Yaroslav Askarov. And so there's just kind of that undercurrent too of Saros better perform well, or it's going to prove the point that Barry Trotz made the wrong choice. And so, there's a little bit of, I wouldn't say pressure. I don't think UC Saros really thinks about it, but there is that additional storyline, that additional undercurrent to this game, where you really want to see Saros get this start and come out and have the kind of game that we know that he can have. if you're looking at this game, Emma, who is the Nashville Predators player who you think is going to just step up?
Well, it's hard after they had 7 different goal scorers.
So many to choose from, which has not been the storyline of the season.
No, and you know what? I think of all of the goal scorers that they did have, you know who was a little quiet in the first game against San Jose? Ryan O'Reilly and Gus
Yeah.
Nyquist. We didn't see a lot from them. But I think in a way it's kind of a good thing because you're getting more opportunities for other guys there, and that helps build their confidence. I am still on the Tommy Novak train. I still think
Yes.
that moving to the wing, playing with Fedor Svechkov, those guys getting more time together. Tommy was very noticeable in the first San Jose game. He had 3 points. And even the game before that against Minnesota, when he had the really nice pass to Svechkov for his goal, I think we're starting to see Tommy wake up a little bit, and so I like to see that continue. So I'm going to go with Tommy Novak.
I am on the exact same page as you. For me, it is that Novak, Svechkov, and Zachary Leroux was with them the last game. That trio, I think, has the potential to really build something. I love what we're seeing from Svechkov, but I am with you. Tommy Novak is waking up, and I talked with him the other day, asking him kind of, what has the season been teaching you? Because this has been a tough season for Tommy Novak. And he said, it is really about coming in and each game is a new game. And players like Tommy Novak are working as hard mentally this season as they are physically. And I think you're seeing that with a lot of these Nashville Predators players. And I hope that the success that he is seeing with that Svechkov and Leroux combination, I hope that that continues to build his confidence because he is such a playmaker. That guy is such a playmaker for the Predators. So, I hate to just piggyback off of what you're saying, but I think you are exactly right. And look, I'm here for Philip Forsberg extending his goal streak as well. Why not? Let's just go ahead and do that. Phil, you're on a roll.
I mean, we came close to seeing it end against San Jose. He didn't score until that empty netter at the end, but yeah, no, really, really good to see that top line meshing as well. Jonathan Marchessault, 4 points on Tuesday, his first 4-point game as a member of the Predators. And I think he's set a new career high point streak too. I think he's at 8 or 9 games now. 9 games, 9 games, because he had 8 earlier this year. So
yeah,
all really good. You need your top guys to be your top guys, but I'm encouraged by the recent performance of Tommy Novak.
Yeah, I would agree with you. Look, tonight's game, is it going to be the trap game? Is it going to be the game that gives Nashville a little bit more confidence on the road? We're going to find out what happens again. Late puck drop, 9:30 p.m. Central Time. If you can't stay up for the game, do not fret. Emma and I will have you covered on tomorrow's episode. We're going to have your complete game recap, including one word to describe the game. We're going to tell you what we saw, not just from the Predators, but from Yaroslav Askarov as well. Before we log off today, Emma, will you let everyone know where they can find you and your work?
You can find me on Twitter and Instagram at Emma_Lingen, and you can find my work at the Hockey News.
And you can find me on social media at AnnK_Mama on Ice. You can find my work with Penalty Box Radio as well. That's going to do it for this game day episode of the Locked On Predators podcast. Thanks so much for making us your first listen of the day. We're going to be back tomorrow with a game recap. We'll see you then.